Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I came home that Friday evening expecting nothing more than a quiet dinner and maybe a movie. Instead, I found Gloria in our bedroom, with both closets open, dragging piles of clothes into two large suitcases. She didn't even look up when I walked in. "What's going on?" I asked. She zipped one suitcase halfway shut and said without a pause, "I'm moving out tonight. Don't try to stop me." It was so blunt, so rehearsed, it almost sounded like she'd been practicing it. Moving out? Where? "I'll stay with a friend until I figure things out." She still wouldn't look at me. "Harvey, I need more from life than this." "This?" I gestured around the room. "What's wrong with this? This house, this routine, you. I can't keep living like this." She spoke like she was reading a script she'd already decided on. "Then let's talk about it," I said. "We could do counseling." "No," she cut in sharply. "I don't want counseling. I'm done." I stood there for a few seconds, letting the silence fill the space she clearly expected me to rush in and fill with begging. Instead, I just said, "Okay." That got her attention. She stopped mid-fold, finally meeting my eyes. "Okay? That's all you have to say? You've made up your mind, Gloria. What exactly am I supposed to fight for if you've already decided you're done?" Her lips tightened. "Fine. Don't say I didn't give you a chance." She yanked the zipper closed, grabbed both suitcases, and brushed past me without another word. I watched her car pull out of the driveway. The second the taillights disappeared, I picked up my phone. "David, it's Harvey," I said when my lawyer answered. "Gloria just moved out. What do I need to do to protect myself?" Within minutes, I had a checklist. Cancel her access to my credit cards, change the locks, and document everything she left behind. By midnight, her cards were dead. By the next morning, a locksmith was on the way. If she thought I was going to wait around for her to decide whether or not I was worth keeping, she was in for a surprise. The truth is, Gloria's exit didn't blindside me. For the last 8 months, I'd watched her turn into someone I barely recognized. When we first got married, she worked full-time at a marketing firm, came home laughing about the ridiculous things her coworkers said, and actually enjoyed our quiet weekends. Then, out of nowhere, she quit that job, said she wanted something less stressful, and started working part-time at a boutique. The rest of her time was swallowed by Instagram, TikTok, and group chats with her single friends. It started small, little comments about how fun their lives seemed. Then she began comparing everything we had to what she thought they had. Better apartments, better vacations, better freedom. I noticed she was going out more, first for happy hours that ran late, then for girls' nights that ended in the morning. I'd wake up to an empty bed and a text that said, "Don't wait up." One night, I saw a name pop up on her phone, Victor. I remembered him from years back, a guy she used to work with. They'd always been a little too friendly. I asked her about it. "It's just Victor," she said, rolling her eyes. "We're catching up. You're being paranoid." "Paranoid because my wife is having late-night conversations with an old coworker?" "You're controlling, Harvey. It's not attractive." That was the end of that conversation. But from then on, I started paying closer attention. The laughs she used to save for me were showing up in text threads with other people. Her phone was always face down. By the time I walked in on her packing, I already knew what it meant. She'd been building this exit for months, maybe even testing the waters with Victor or whoever else was in her ear. The thing she didn't know was that I wasn't the kind of man to chase someone who was already halfway out the door. When she left, it wasn't a collapse. It was confirmation. By Saturday morning, the first cracks in Gloria's grand plan started showing. Around 9 a.m., my phone lit up with her name. I let it ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" she snapped before I could say hello. "Good morning. My cards aren't working. I tried to get gas, and it got declined in front of everyone." "Those cards are in my name," I said evenly. "You were just an authorized user. I removed you." "You can't just cut me off from money." "Actually, I can. You told me you were moving out. You told me not to stop you. I'm respecting that." There was a pause, then her tone softened just slightly. "Harvey, I never said I wanted a divorce. I just needed space." "Space doesn't involve packing 2 suitcases and walking away. That's called moving out." "This is ridiculous. I still have rights as your wife." "To what?" "You left voluntarily." She hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time Sophie, one of her closest friends. "Harvey, it's Sophie. We need to talk about Gloria." "Do we?" "She's hurt. She feels like you're punishing her. She told me she was done. I'm taking her at her word. Look, she just needs time to think. You should meet with her, talk things through." "Like you told her to see what else is out there?" I cut in. Silence. "Sophie, I know you've been in her ear for months. I know you think she's wasting her life being married. Well, now she's free. You got what you wanted." "That's not fair." "What's not fair is a friend convincing my wife to walk out, then acting shocked when I don't chase after her." I ended the call before she could reply. By noon, I'd realized something important. Gloria expected me to be panicked and desperate. Instead, I was calm and deliberate, and I could tell it was already throwing her off balance. The following Wednesday evening, I heard my doorbell ring 3 times in a row, followed by pounding on the door. I looked out the front window and saw Gloria on the porch, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing the same jacket she'd left in. "Harvey, open up. We need to talk," she called. I didn't move. She bent down, pulled something from her purse, and tried her old house key. I watched her twist it twice before realizing it didn't fit. She threw her hands up and started banging on the door harder. That's when my neighbor John came walking over from his driveway. "Everything okay here?" he asked, looking from me in the window to her on the porch. "John, tell him to open the door," she said quickly. "He locked me out of my own house." John frowned. "Gloria, didn't you tell me on Saturday that you were finally free and ready to start a new chapter?" Her face turned red. "I was venting. That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you said," John replied. "You even joked about finding someone more exciting." Gloria's eyes flicked toward me like this was somehow my fault. That was taken out of context. I finally stepped outside, but not toward her, toward John. "Thanks for checking, man. We're fine here." She stepped in front of me. "Harvey, please. I made a mistake. Let's just talk." "There's nothing to talk about. You told me not to stop you, remember? You got what you wanted." Her voice cracked just enough to sound almost genuine. "I didn't know it would be like this." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you left." John shifted uncomfortably. "I'll let you two sort this out." I went back inside and locked the door behind me. She stayed on the porch another 5 minutes before finally walking away. By the weekend, Gloria had moved on to a new strategy: my family. Saturday morning, my mother called. "Harvey, I just got off the phone with Gloria." I sighed. "What did she want?" "She said you locked her out, canceled her cards, and refused to see her. Is that true?" "Yes, she moved out, Mom. That was her choice." My mother's voice stayed steady. "Then she has to live with it. I told her I'm not getting in the middle." An hour later, my sister Elaine texted me. "Gloria just called me crying. I told her to stop." I almost laughed. Gloria wasn't used to being shut down so quickly. That afternoon, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, Gloria was standing there with her older brother, Martin. He looked uncomfortable from the start. "Harvey," he began, "we just want to have a conversation. Gloria knows she overreacted." I leaned on the doorframe. "Overreacted?" "She packed her bags and told half the neighborhood she was happier without me. That's not overreacting, Martin. That's making a decision." Gloria shifted her weight. "Victor wasn't what I thought. I realize now I made a mistake." I nodded slowly. "So, you left thinking someone else would be better, and when it didn't work out, you came back." "That's not fair," she said quickly. "What's not fair," I said, "is you walking away without even trying to fix what we had, and then expecting me to just reset everything when it's convenient for you." Martin raised his hands. "Look, I'm just here to help her talk. She's my sister. I understand, and I respect that. But the answer's still no." Gloria's eyes hardened. "So that's it? 3 years? Gone?" "No, Gloria. You ended it the night you walked out. I'm just respecting your choice." Martin sighed, and they both turned to leave. She didn't look back. A month passed without any contact from Gloria, and I assumed she had finally accepted that it was over. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my lawyer, David, informed me that Gloria's attorney had reached out with a proposal for marriage counseling instead of continuing with the divorce. According to David, the push was coming from her parents, who wanted her to either reconcile with me or become fully independent. From the details he shared, it was clear the motivation wasn't love or regret. She had been drifting between staying with friends and her parents, picking up irregular shifts at the boutique, and struggling to maintain the lifestyle she had once taken for granted. The house was never part of the negotiation. I had purchased it years before we were married, and the deed was solely in my name. Legally, there was nothing for her to claim. When she left, she took only what she could fit into her suitcases, and everything else stayed where it was. I kept it exactly that way. It was obvious she was reaching for the safety net she had willingly abandoned, a home she had no right to return to. David advised that I hold firm and continue with the divorce unless I had a compelling reason to change course. I didn't. There was nothing left to reconsider. The decision stood, and we moved forward. Later that week, I got a single text from Gloria. "We could fix this if you just talk to me." I didn't answer. David filed the final paperwork. I didn't feel glee, just certainty. This was the only outcome that made sense. When you've been with someone for years, it's tempting to remember only the good moments, to think maybe you can get them back if you just rewind far enough. But I couldn't unhear her saying she was done. I couldn't unsee the look in her eyes when she told me not to stop her. That wasn't a heat-of-the-moment outburst. That was a choice. And choices have consequences. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. No big courtroom drama, no tearful last-minute speeches, just signatures, a stamp, and it was over. I heard from our mutual friend, Elaine, that Gloria had moved back in with her parents in a small town 2 hours away. She'd quit the boutique job, couldn't afford the gas to get there, and taken a full-time position at a call center. She sent me one last text after the papers were signed. "I hope one day you understand I didn't mean to hurt you." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The house felt different now, quieter, steadier. I no longer came home wondering if I'd find her in the middle of another fight or planning another night out that ended at 2 a.m. A month later, I met Rachel. She's a 32-year-old nurse, owns a condo, and pays her own bills. We had coffee, then dinner, and I realized how refreshing it was to sit across from someone who didn't view relationships as a competition for leverage. When I told her briefly about Gloria, she shook her head. "Sounds like she wanted you as a backup plan while she explored other options." "That's exactly what it was," I said. I thought back to the night it all started, her standing over those open suitcases, delivering her line like she was in a play. She had expected me to panic, to promise the moon just to keep her from walking out the door. But I'd already spent months fighting for the marriage by being loyal, steady, and building the life we had together. She gave up in one evening. Best lesson I ever learned? When someone tells you they're leaving, believe them. Don't chase. Don't beg. Let them go. Because if they really valued what they had, they wouldn't be walking away in the first place. Thank you for watching.